Hi, this session is on our algebra practice test and revision. Please make sure you're writing down all the questions, including the subheadings, and always have a go first. If you get stuck, you can watch and see how I explain the questions, but please make sure you are trying this yourself first. So our first section is on patterns and building expressions. Our first question says, write the rule and fill in the boxes for the number pattern below. Okay, so try and work this out yourself first. Now, in this example, I can see there are two numbers together. So I've got 16 and 24. So if I can work out how do I get from 16 to 24, and if I need to go backwards, how do I get from 24 to 16, depending on the boxes I'm trying to fill in, that would be the rule that I need to be able to fill in the boxes. So in this case, if I go from 16 to 24, I have to plus 8. So that means if I go 24 plus 8, that will give me my next number. And if I keep going, the same pattern should equal what goes in each box, and it should be consistent. So in here, 24 plus 8 is 32. 32 plus 8, yes, I get 40, so that's correct. 40 plus 8 is 48. So the rule is to keep adding 8. Okay, and we go from left to right. That's how we, read in English. So we go from left to right. But to work out this box here, well, I'm going backwards. So in this case, I could just work it out by going 16 take away 8 is just 8. I can check 8 plus 8. Yes, I get my 16. Okay, question 2 says complete the following flowcharts. And they have given us a starting number, and we have to apply the operations to each answer we get. So if I start with 2, 2 times 8 is 16. And then I'll just keep following the flowchart. 16 plus 6, and I'll get my 22. 16 plus 6 is 22. And then 22, that's a take away 4. Well, 22 take away 4 leaves me with 18. And then 18 times 10, all I've got to do is write down 18 and add the 0. I get my 180. And that's how I've completed the flowchart, by starting with my 2 and continuing with the operations. Now here I've got 5, starting with my 5. So 5 plus 4, well, 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 divided by 9 is just 1. 1 times 8 is 8. And 8 take away 7 leaves me with 1. Okay? Oop, that one disappeared. Now with question 3, we use those same skills when building expressions. But instead of having just a number as our answer, we have our algebra. So question 3 says, build the following expressions by filling in the boxes. And of course, following the operations. So if I start with x, I've got x times 7. Now, if I have x times 7, we know in algebra, we write it as 7x. So please make sure you have written 7x in that box. Then I continue, 7x plus 3, well, I am left with 7x plus 3. Okay, and that is my final expression. Let's try B. I'll start with x, and then x take away 2. That is just x take away 2. You should have had x take away 2 in that box. Now, you might notice we're multiplying by 5. If you write this, x take away 2 times 5, it is actually incorrect. You have forgotten to put brackets, because without those brackets, we are saying 2 times 5 first. If we follow BIDMAS or BODMAS, order of operations, times would come first. But in this case, they're asking us to go x, the number, take away 2 first, and then times 5. By putting brackets, that ensures we are subtracting 2 first from our unknown number. Now, in algebra, we write this as 5 bracket x take away 2. If you had this as your answer, that's still correct at this stage, but try and write it in this form here, and we know there's an invisible times there. So in our final box, you should have had 5 bracket x take away 2, and that bracket is very important. Now with C, we've got x divided by 2. Now, when we write division and with algebra, we write it in fraction form. So x divided by 2 should be written like that. And then we plus 1. We don't have to put brackets because division will come first anyway. So x divided by 2, and then plus 1. And division will come first. If you did have brackets around it like that, that's still correct, but you don't need to have brackets. That's fine. And with D, we've got x take away 5. So x take away 5. And then we've got divided by 4. Now, if you wrote it like this, x take away 5 divided by 4, once again, division would come first. So if you had brackets, that would be correct. But the problem is in algebra, we don't write the division symbol. We write a fraction line. And the fraction line is really useful in this case because we actually don't have to use brackets. So what I mean is my final answer would be x take away 5. And the division line goes over the x and the 5. And then I divide by 4. You can have brackets up there if you want to, but you don't need to. When we have a fraction line, the top, the numerator, the top calculation must happen first. In this case, I must go x take away 5 first and then divide by 4. And just if I look at an example, when we worked with fractions, if I had 2 plus 4 over 9, just say, I must do my 2 plus 4 first. That's my next step. 2 plus 4 would be would be 6, and then it'll be 6 over 9. So whenever you have a fraction line, you must calculate what's on top first. So that's why we don't need brackets. And just to practice those skills, question 4 says, write the following without the multiplication or division signs. So please have a go first. Okay, so with A, we don't want to see the multiplication signs. So I've got A times B times 2. Now with algebra, the 2, any numbers come first, and then the letters, the pronumerals, you can write in alphabetical order. So A, B. Okay, still the same thing. And we know when we multiply, order doesn't matter. If I have, for example, 2 times 3 times 4, that would equal 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 4 is 24. Oh, sorry, yep. Or if I have the same numbers but in a different order, 3 times 4 times 2, that would still give me 24. So order does not matter when we multiply, okay? All right, so these two would be equivalent, the same expression. Now this one here, we don't want to have that multiplication sign. It's telling us write it without it. And when we have brackets, the number or in this case, the number should be first. So 2 bracket 3 plus x should have been your final answer. F divided by 2, as we spoke before, we don't use division when working with algebra. This division symbol, we write it in fraction form. So you should have had F divided by 2. With D, now just be careful. We've got x plus 3 divided by B. And you might look down here. We've got the same thing, except you notice there's brackets. So those brackets are very important. In this case, the plus must come first. But up here, we don't have brackets. So we know with BODMAS, division comes first. So all we're going to do is, you can, if you want to work with this first, we're just going to change that to 3 divided by B. That would come first, and then plus the x. So we have x plus 3 divided by B. We don't need brackets because that fraction line is saying 3 divided by B, or 3 over B must happen first, regardless. Now with E, because we have those brackets there, they're telling us we must do x plus 3 first. So that means x plus 3 is all over B. So that means x plus 3 comes first, and then we divide by 3. And we saw a similar example to that one before. Okay, our next section is on algebra keywords and equivalent expressions. There are a lot of keywords in algebra that we have been learning, and it's very important you understand these because you will see all of these at some point in your studies, especially your tests. Okay, so question 5 says, look at the following expression. So there is our expression. We've got a plus 3z plus 4x plus 6. And then the first one says, what is the constant? If you remember the word constant, constant means, the actual word means it stays the same. It doesn't change. And in algebra, a constant is just the number on its own. The number on its own doesn't actually change because it's just the number. If I look at 4x, for example, if I have 4x, 4x can change. If x was just, say, 2, I would end up having 4 times 2, which is 4 times 2 is 8. So you can see how a constant is just the number. It doesn't change. So in this case, the constant is 6. For B, what are the variables or pronumerals? We know we can use either keyword, variables or pronumerals. There is a slight difference, but whenever you see those words, you know it's relating to the algebra. The symbols we use, in this case, the letters that we have. And I can see 3 different letters, 3 different symbols. We have A, Z, and X. They are the pronumerals or variables in this expression. C, what is the coefficient of X? So coefficient, a way to remember is coefficient is you've got 2 F's and F means friend. So if you ever forget, think of a friend. So what is the friend of X? And a best friend, in this case, we know best friends stay very close. So if I look at X, the best friend of X I can see is just that 4 there. So the coefficient of X is 4. Okay? And we can also say it's a positive 4 because that skill is important as well. So I can sort of say, yeah, it's a positive 4x as well. D, what is the coefficient of A? So once again, the coefficient, we've got double F for best friends. So A's friend. Now, you might notice there's nothing there. So you might think it's 0. There's nothing there. We know in algebra, there's an invisible 1 there. Okay? So the coefficient of A is 1. Okay? And it's also a positive 1 because there's no negative there. How many terms are there? Now, remember what the word term is. Think of a school term. How many terms in one school year? There are 4 terms in Australia anyway. So here, how many terms are there separated by, in this case, the plus? Terms are separated by plus or takeaway. So in this case, we've got a term here. So 6, 4x is another term, 3z and a. They are all terms. Constants can be terms as well. So there are 4 terms in this whole expression. Okay, question 6 says match the expressions that are equivalent. So we know with algebra, we can rearrange, we can simplify expressions or terms that are given to us. And by doing that, we can actually see if they're the same as something else. So 1 times x, I know I can just write it as x, okay? So we'll do this for most of these questions here. So 1 times x is x. Straight away, I can see its equivalent is there. So x and x, 1 times x is the same as x. Now, we've got x plus 5 times 3. Now, I know I can rewrite this as 3 bracket x plus 5, which is equivalent to, because it looks exactly the same as well, equivalent to that one there. I've got x over 5. I know that can be written as x divided by 5. So x divided by 5, there it is. They're equivalent expressions. They're the exact same thing. Over here, I've got 5x plus 4 plus 2x. Now, I know when I have like terms, like x and x are like terms, I can simplify. I can add these together. 5x plus 2x, that is just 7x. That plus 4 stays there. Is there anything that looks like 7x plus 4? Yes, there it is. So those 2 are equivalent expressions. They look exactly the same, and they are the same. And the last one, x times x times x. I know if you remember going back to powers, if I have 2 times 2 times 2, that could be written as 2 to the power of 3. Okay? So x times x times x can be written as x to the power of 3, and there it is. Its equivalent is just there. Okay, our next section is writing expressions and equations. So you will see some worded sentences or worded problems, and we need to write expressions from those. Now, before we do that, can you please make sure you write this down if you haven't got it already? And if you do have it, just please make sure you revise all of this. Now, there are lots of keywords that you need to know in order to understand what they're actually asking you. For example, sum. When you see the word sum, you think of the symbol addition. Sum is the answer when you add 2 or more numbers together. Even more than can mean addition. Difference is an important one. Difference, you think of these symbols subtraction. And difference is the answer when you subtract a larger number, take away a smaller number. That's how we find the difference. So, for example, the example here says the difference between 2 and 5 is, and you can see how they've gotten the 5 first, take away 2. because finding the difference is the larger number, take away the smaller. But when we have algebra, if it says the next example says the difference between A and B is, you could have either A take away B or B take away A because we don't know which number is larger. I don't know what A is, I don't know what B is. So technically either one is okay. But the most important thing is understand that each keyword, like product, refers to multiplication. Product is the answer when we multiply. And look at the examples that are there for you. So please make sure you write this down if you haven't got it already. And if you do have it, just read through this before you try the next section. So question 7 says, write an equation or expression for each of the following. So you'll see some of those keywords in this, which is extremely important. And A, let's start with A. So please write these down. Write all of these down and have a go first. So I am thinking of a number. And if you go back to that table, whenever you see a number, you replace that with, you can write N or X, you choose your variables. All right, so I am thinking of a number. So whenever I see questions like this, I like to cross off, in this case, my number I am thinking of, I'm just going to write X. So all of that could be X. So there's my number X. When I multiply, now straight away, multiply, I know this means multiply. So when I multiply it, when I multiply it by 4, okay. So I'm going to just start this now. I'm going to have X and times it by 4. I know, yes, you can write it like this, X times 4, which can be written as 4X. So far I have that 4X. And then add 2. So I've got my 4X and then add 2, okay? The answer is 14. So I'll get rid of the equal sign now because I can see this is an equation. The answer is, the symbol for is, or the answer is my equal sign, okay? I don't think it was in this table here, but whenever you see is or the answer, we mean equals. And we know whenever we have an equal sign, we have an equation. So in this case, the first one I can see is an equation, not an expression. So 4x plus 2, and the answer is 14. And there I go. So there's my equation that represents that sentence there. All right, B says the sum. There's my keyword sum, and I know it means addition. So the sum of A, B, and C. Well, that will just be A plus B plus C. Done. If I add all those up, I get my answer. C, so that's done. C, the quotient of 3 and A. I know quotient is that keyword that means division, the answer when we divide two numbers. But to get the quotient, I have to have, 3 divided by A. Now remember, we've got algebra, so that would become 3 divided by A. 3 on top over A. Now, order when we divide is very important. If you had A over 3, that is actually incorrect. D, my age doubled and then 5 years added. So my age doubled, I'll do it over here. Doubled means times by 2. Now, my age, I haven't told you my age, so in this case, you can write A for age. Double that, so you have 2 times my age and then 5 years added. So double my age and then add 5. So you should have had an expression, something like that. This one here, 8 less than A. Be careful with this one. It's not 8 take away A, 8 less than A. A is first, then take away 8. That's very important that A was first. So 8 less than a number that was already there. Think of it that way. F, the product of 3y and A. Keyword product, I know it means times, and product is the answer when we times. So if I times all of these numbers together, 3 times y times A, that will give me my product. And with algebra, we can simplify this. So your final answer should have been, have the 3 first, I'll put the A and then the y. We know when we multiply, order doesn't matter. If you had a different order, that's okay. But multiplication in this case can be invisible. G, the difference straight away, take away. So difference of G and H. So I'll do this one here. So difference, so G take away H. You can have H take away G because we don't know which one's larger, but that one's fine. And then multiplied by 3. This is very important. We must do take away first and put brackets. That must come first and then multiply it by 3. So we can write our final answer as 3 bracket G take away H. And the last one, H, double a number plus 3. So a number, I'm going to just call it n. Double n would be 2 times n, or just 2n, plus 3. Now, plus 3, yep, is equal to, straight away, that keyword means is equal to what? The same number. So n again, the same number. I'm using n for the number, plus 6, plus 6. So you should have had something like this. So this one was more tricky. We have an equation, and we had to use the same number on both sides. Okay, our next section is on substitution. Now make sure you have a go first, and we'll go through these quickly because the lesson's going to take too long otherwise. Okay, so we know with substitution, just like in sport, we replace. So substitute means replace. So replace A with 4, replace B with 3. That's what it's saying when you see this. A equals 4, B equals 3, replace them. So if A is 4, I would have replace A with 4. I've got 4 plus 4. What's 4 plus 4? I'll just do it here because I haven't got room. 4 plus 4 is 8. And that's what evaluate means. So substitute means replace. Evaluate is show the answer, show the value. In this case, it's 8. So those two keywords, you must know what they mean, and we have gone through them in class. Now, B, A, take away B. So once again, replace A with 4, take away B with 3. 4 take away 3. If I evaluate it, I get 1. C, A times A. So once again, replace A with 4. I would have 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is just 16. Done. A over A, which means I have 4. We're still using the same number. A is 4. So 4 over 4. Now, when I simplify fractions, if I see the same number on top and bottom, I just cross it off. It becomes a 1. The whole thing is 1 over 1 or just 1. Or another way of looking at it is 4 divided by 4 is 1. Now, 2A, this is where our algebra skills are extremely important. I know that is really saying 2 times A. Oop, that's an A there. So if I know it's 2 times A and A is 4, I would have 2 times 4. 2 times 4 gives me my 8. So you should have had 8 for that one. F, I've got A times B here. We know AB is really A times B. So if A is 4 and B is 3, I have 4 times 3, which is just 12. Now, G, just be careful now because it does start to get a bit more tricky. So G is, there's my A I'm going to replace first. A is 4, so I'm going to have this. So first, let's substitute. 2 take away 4 plus 3. And when you are doing this, you are still applying order of operations, your BIDMAS. Now look at this, I've got take away and a plus. They are equal operations. Neither comes first, so I know I have to work from left to right. Do not go 4 plus 3 first. That will be wrong. We go left to right. 2 take away 4. Now, you also have to remember your negative number skills. 2 take away 4. I'm going to put brackets around there just to emphasize I'm doing 2 take away 4 first. I've got a smaller number, take away a large number. I know I'll be in the negative end. So that's a negative 2 plus 3. And if you get stuck with negative numbers, just use a number line. You can easily draw one up. Now, negative 2 plus 3, I'm heading back in the positive end. I end up with a 1, a positive 1 or just 1. So you should have had 1 for G. So H, now with H, it's starting to get a little bit more complicated. So before you start substituting, let's see what we have. Here I can see I've got 3B, 3 times B. I've got a plus here and a takeaway. So 3 times B will have to come first. Now I'm going to replace B with, what is B? B is 3. So 5 plus, I might put brackets around it to make it more visual, I guess. 3 times B, which is going to be 3 times 3, and then take away A. So those brackets help us to remember times must come first. 3 times 3 is 9. If you want to cross it off and write 9 like that, you can as well. So I've got 5 plus 9, take away. Oh, and I forgot to substitute the A. What is A? I should have done that as well. A is 4, so that should have been a 4 there. So take away 4. Now, once again, I've got plus and take away. They are equal operations. Neither comes first, so work from left to right. Do 5 plus 9 first, and then take away 4. 5 plus 9 is 14. 14 take away 4 is equal to, I'll just do it here because I haven't got room, is equal to 10. So when you're setting out, you're working out, make sure you have one equal sign per line and all underneath each other. So we should have had equals 10 down there, really. I just haven't got room. Okay, I just dropped off that answer there so we have more room. So with our last one, you might notice, we've got a fraction line. So let's first substitute and then evaluate. So I've got 3 times A. So 3 times, instead of A, I'm going to write 4. And if you want to put brackets around it, you can. Just remember we do times first and then plus that B, which is 3. And it's still all over 5. So let's work out the numerator at the top. So 3 times 4 is just 12, and 12 plus 3 is what I'm left with. I still must do the top first. We know 12 and 3 are above the same fraction line. We must simplify those first. So 12 plus 3 is 15. And now I can simplify this. So this is saying 15 divided by 5. I can look at it that way. 15 divided by 5. My final answer, I'll squeeze it on the bottom, is 3. So you should have had 3 for that one. Okay, our next section is simplifying when adding and subtracting. And we're looking at like terms. Okay, so we have practiced these many times. So please make sure you write the question down and have a go first. You can use highlighters, circle the whatever you need to, different shapes. Just make sure you identify the like terms and whether they are positive or negative. Okay, so with the first one, I can see everything is being added. So I don't really have to highlight anything for this one because I can also see it's all the same variable or pronumeral. It's the same like term, y plus y plus y plus y. How many y's do I have? And what we're really doing is we're adding up the numbers in front of the y. In this case, it's a 1. So in other words, my y is going to be in my answer. When we're adding and subtracting, the pronumerals, the letters in this case, don't change. It's the numbers in front that are changing. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is just 4. And you can see it's saying 4 y's or 4 groups of y. B, now we know with like terms basically spell the same word. So if I have a look at this, I've got BA and AB, but they can still spell the same word. They have the exact same letters. That means they are like terms. So I've got 5. Now it doesn't matter if you write BA in your answer, that's correct as well. I'm going to pick AB because we tend to write it in alphabetical order and A comes first. And then 5 plus 4 is just 9. So 9AB. But if you had this 9BA, that is still correct. All right, now it's starting to get a little bit more complicated because I can see there are different types of like terms. And everything is being added, which does make it easier, but I'm going to start highlighting for this one. So I've got okay, for I guess okay, and I can see there's a 4 next to it, and that 4 is positive, which I might need to know. I'm going to highlight the okays and its like terms green. K is not a like term, it's just K, there's no O. KO is a like term, it spells the same word, it can still spell okay. And when you do this, I want you to highlight or circle the plus in this case on the left-hand side. That's very important. And the same thing for the K, that's a plus K, or I can say now positive K, and the same one here. So the K's are like terms. So I can add the yellow with the yellow and the greens with the greens. So having colors does help. Eventually you can do this mentally. You won't need coloring in it gets much easier the more you practice. But if you're still at the stage where you need more practice, then please make sure you're coloring in. It's the best option. All right, now I'm going to write the like terms together. I've got 4 okay plus, that's why that plus is important, and it's highlighted in green, plus 2 KO. If you want to write okay as well, you can. So I'm just going to write it as okay. I know KO is the same as okay. Now you can write the rest down or you can add and then keep writing. It's up to you how you do this. Some people like to first add this up. 4 plus 2, I have 6 okay. So they're sort of taking care of it. But others like to write the whole thing. So I'm going to keep writing now my K's. I've got plus K here, or 1K plus another K. We know there's an invisible 1 there. So what's 1? And we know it's a positive 1. So what's 1 plus 1? 1 plus 1 is just 2. Or I can say plus 2 because it's positive 2K. So your answer would have been 6OK plus 2K. Now it starts to get trickier because we do see negatives and positives, but do the same thing. I've got 2x. I'm going to do my x's green. Are there any other like terms with x? Any x's? Geo, no. X, there it is. But remember, we must highlight, in this case, a takeaway on its left. So I know it belongs to that x. No more x's. The next thing I'm going to highlight and identify, I've got 5 go, geo. It's a positive or +5 go. And I've got on here, OG, it still spells go, so that's a like term. I can add them together, but it's a +4. And then that 2, the constant, it's just by itself. Unfortunately, it's got no friends, no like terms we can add it with, so that's just going to be +2 in my final answer. Now let's put our like terms together. So if a question wants you to show working out, this is what we want to see. So 2x, take away x, okay? And then I've got, for this case, in this example, we'll just write the whole thing, I guess. So +5go or go, and +4og, and then that +2 won't change. If it helps, you can still highlight the like terms. So we can see how the goes are together and the x's are together. And they're in green. And we know that's still a +5. So sometimes it helps to keep highlighting until you get your final answer. And that +2 is on its own. All right, so now I've got 2x take away 1x. 2 take away 1 is just x. You can write 1x, or in algebra, we know the 1 is invisible. So in your final answer, just write x. Now, don't put plus or take away here. Let's work out what this is. It's a +5, so +5. So a normal 5. 5 + 4 is just +9, or +9. I'm going to write GO in alphabetical order. And sometimes it does help to recite the alphabet if you forget what letter comes first. And then that +2 has not changed. It's just +2. So our final answer would have been x +9, GO +2. Okay, for the E, once again, let's just keep highlighting. I like to highlight. So TA, any more TAs? Yep, there's TA there, and it's a takeaway 10, TA, so that takeaway is part of the 10. And the Y's, I'll highlight my Y's. I've got takeaway 5Y and +2Y. So I can clearly see which takeaway, which plus belongs to which number or term. So I've got 2 TA, takeaway 10 TA, and then I've got takeaway 5Y +2Y. And I've just highlighted those again, just so it's clear to see exactly what I'm doing. Now, 2 take away 10, be careful. A smaller number take away a larger number is negative. So I will have a -8. And I'm going to write 80, alphabetical order. And then before I write plus or take away, let me work out what I end up with, whether it's positive or negative. So -5, so you can see that 5 now, because we're working from left to right, it becomes a -5. So -5 +2, you can use your number line. -5 +2 leaves me with negative. So I'm going to write takeaway now, -3y. So that should have been your final answer. This one was harder because we've got negatives in our answer. But if you've highlighted, in this case, the takeaway with the 5 and so on, you can't go wrong. And our last one, okay, so to save some time, I've just highlighted my like terms. You should have done that already. And I'm going to put them together. I've got 4x, take away 2x. I've got the constant. So I've got this number's on their own. So +5 and +3. I can add those together. And then take away 2y +6y. Oops. I haven't got much room for that one. Okay, and I've just highlighted them again so I can see exactly what I'm doing. So starting with my x's, 4, which is a +4. So 4 take away 2 is just 2x. And then I've got +5, so +5 +3. So a normal 5 +3 is just a +8. So I can write +8. And then it's a takeaway 2, so a -2y +6y. -2 +6 leaves me with a +4y. So that would be a plus there now. And if you had it like this, So 2x plus 4y plus 8. If you had the constant on the end, that's still correct. They are equivalent expressions. Same thing, so either one is correct. Okay, our next section is on simplifying when multiplying and dividing. So I think the questions might be wrong, but I think this is question 10. But anyway, simplify the following. Have a go first. Okay, so we know when we're multiplying with algebra and numbers, the multiplication symbols can become invisible. And then any numbers that we have, we can multiply. So with our first one, I don't see any numbers, whole numbers. All I got is a times b times f. Just make them invisible. So we have a, b, and then f. And I wrote it in alphabetical order. Done. With b, I've got a number here, 2 times c times f times 3. So whenever you see numbers now, we multiply them as normal. So I can rewrite it as, I'll just do it over here, more room. So I've got 2 times 3 now, I'm going to work out, and then times c, and then times f. 2 times 3 is 6, and then c times f is just cf. And all the multiplication symbols become invisible. That should have been your final answer. For C, I'll do C over here. Once again, we've got, now in this case, we've got 2x times 3b. Remember, I can write this as 2 times x times 3 times b. It's the same thing, except they've left the times invisible. So we just got to times our numbers. 2 times 3 is 6, so we can write them together. 2 times 3 times, I'm going to put b first, because b comes first in the alphabet, and then times x. 2 times 3 is 6, and then bx. That should have been your final answer for C. For D, now whenever you see the same letter, the same base, I should say pronumeral, this is where powers come in. So remember, in this case, we would have the base A, and there are 4 A's. We are really adding the ones that are invisible, the power ones, but we'll learn the index laws. You may have learned the index laws or you may haven't. But in this case, there are 4 A's, and that means the power becomes 4. And for E, we've got 2 times 3 first. So multiply 2 times 3, which is 6. Now, I've got A and A. So A times A would just be A to the power of 2, A squared. And then B times B would just be B squared there. Okay, so that was more of a challenge one if you're in year 7. But that's what the answer is. Okay, the next question says expand the following. So expanding, we know there's an invisible times in between a number and a bracket, and that times is very important. When we expand, every number gets multiplied by the 3. And just in case you're not sure what it's actually saying, this is saying 3 groups of x plus 4. So the long way of doing it would be I have x plus 4 3 times plus x plus 4 plus x plus 4. Now we know how to add this. X plus x is just going to be 3x. 4 plus 4 plus 4, 4, 8, 12 is positive 12. And there's my answer. And that's correct because we're multiplying. But the problem is if I have an example like this, a times 3 plus b, I don't know what a is. A could be 5, a could be 3. So we have to find out another way now to work this out. And that is using the distributive law, which means all we have to do is a number outside the brackets is multiplied with everything inside the brackets. 3 times x and 3 times 4. So the other way we could have done this was we could have gone, well, that's 3 times x, I'll keep it in brackets, plus 3 times 4. And work out each one, and that's our answer. 3 times x, I know, is just 3x, plus 3 times 4 is 12. And look, I got the exact same thing. And b, so b, once again, I'll go a times 3 and a times b. So a times 3 plus a times b. So I'm left with a times 3, we write it as 3a, and a times b, we can just write it as ab. Now, we can't add these together. 3a, a is not a like term with ab, so that would have been your final answer. Okay, next section is on, we can see we have division. We know fraction line means division, so have a go first with these ones. All right, so with a, we know whenever we have the same number on top and bottom, in this case, the number is a over a. Straight away, I cancel them out. I'm left with a 1. Easy. Now with b, I can see With our numbers, we simplify them as normal. So if I have, for example, 4 over 8 and I had to simplify that, I can divide them both by a factor of 4. You could have divided by 2, but you had to keep going. The highest factor was 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And I can see 4 is half of 8. That's how we got a half. So numbers in fraction form, we simplify as normally. And then the variables, we just cross them off if we can simplify them. X and X, there's one X on top, 1 on the bottom. That's just 1 becomes a 1. There's one Y on top, 1 on the bottom. That becomes a 1. So all I'm left with is 1 over 2, a half. This one here, A times B, same thing. This could be written as AB over AB. Same thing. We know the times can be invisible. So 1A on top, 1 on the bottom, 1B on top, 1 on the bottom. Everything is just 1. So I'm left with 1 times 1 is just 1 over 1. The whole thing is just 1. D, let's cross off anything that's the same on top and bottom. I've got a 2 on top, a 2 on the bottom. A 3 on top, no 3s on the bottom. An F on top, an F on the bottom. And a G on top, and no G's on the bottom. So what I am left with is, I'm left with 1s on the bottom. 1 times 1 is just 1. And then 3 times G is just 3G. And that 1 can be invisible. So your final answer should be 3G. Oh, that's supposed to be A, B, C, D. That's supposed to be E, F, and G. Sorry. All right, now with this one, we've got numbers and variables again. We can start off with our numbers. We know a trick is if I see 0 at the end, I've got 40 and 80. Whenever we have zeros at the end, we can cross them off. We just divide it by 10. And look, 4 over 8, I know is a half. So my final answer would be half, just like before. So far I have this, 1 over 2. I've taken care of my numbers. Now let's simplify any variables. I've got an A on top and an A on the bottom that can go. No B on top, no C on top. So that B, C are stuck on the bottom. Now that 1 must stay there. It's very important, okay? And if you want to just write it a bit more in the middle, you can, because usually we see them in the middle. So 1 over 2 BC. All right, now if I've got 100 over 1,000, so I know the trick, cross off 1 0 at the end and 1 on the bottom. 1 0 at the end, 1 on the bottom. No more zeros on top, so I can't cross off that 0. I am left with 1 times x, which is just x, over 10, and then y. And now with G, it looks different to the others because we have that division symbol. Whenever you see this problem, first write it as in fraction form and then simplify. You can see it's much clearer that way. And cross off anything you see on the same on top and bottom. So 3 can go, 3 can go, x can go, x can go. I'm just left with, when we cross them off, they become 1. 1 times 1 is 1. I'm left with t over 1, which is just t. So your final answer should have been t. All right, and our final question, ignore the questions now because I've skipped some questions because it's taking a bit too long, this lesson. We've got question here says, solve using mental strategies. So we have equations, okay? So our next quick section is on equations. So I want you to write these down and solve them. Try and do it mentally. We know what equations are telling us. They're asking us a question. For A, we have 8 divided by a number, m, to give me 4. That equals 4. What is m? So what is something divided? So what is 8 divided by something? So 8 divided by something to give me 4. Well, I know it has to be 2. And let's check. 8 divided by 2. Yep, that gives me 4. True on both sides. B, a number, take away 5 to give me 15. Well, I know if I maybe try 20, take away 5, I get, yep, 20 take away 5, 15 equals 15. It's true on both sides. So x equals 20. So when it says solve, you must write your final answer like this. M is 2, x is 20, and we can see how it's correct because 15 equals 15. Now G is a bit harder because we've got 2 times a number plus 1 to give me 7. A way to work, the best way to start this is think of a number plus 1 to give me 7. Go from there. What's a number plus 1 to give me 7? I know my number has to be 8. 8 plus 1 is 7. All right. Now, how do I get that? What does G have to be if I times it by 2 to give me 8? Well, I know G has to be 4 because 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 plus 1 is 7. So 2 times 4 gave me my 8. So we can solve equations mentally, and most importantly, that's because we understand and know how they work. Okay, so for you to keep practicing with your studies and for your test coming up, please make sure you do the following questions that I'll show you in a minute. You must complete them for homework as part of your study. Show full working out, and I will check them to see how you went. So the first question, we've got 2 questions, are these ones. Simplify the following. So once again, write the question down, show working out and your answer. So some involve addition and subtraction, some division and multiplication. And so that's the first lot of questions. And question 2, solve the following using a method of your choice. So solve these using your knowledge on solving equations. So please write these down as well, and I will check your answers in class. Thank you.